On this DM Gives Inspiration, we're going to be talking about choosing a boss for a level 1 encounter. If you're not familiar with challenge ratings, please check out Season 4, Episode 7, Challenge Ratings and Custom Monsters. I'm going to share with you the process I go through to pick out a level 1 boss encounter. This is the big bad that would be at the end of your level 1 dungeon. But of course our level 1s are rather vulnerable and have very low hit points, so we need to make sure we don't one-shot them. We also need to make sure our boss doesn't get one-shot, and at the same time, we want to make sure the players can actually hit our boss. So let's work through some example monsters. And on the other side, I hope that you're able to deduce for yourself what sort of monster would be appropriate for your party. More than appropriate, what sort of monster would be fun for your party. And if you'd like to follow along at home, these monsters are only going to be taken from the basic rule set and the monster manual. Let's in fact take a very early challenge rating 1 monster from the monster manual, Animated Armor. There are a lot of warning bells going off in my head when I see this monster. First up, Armor Class 18. It's a creature made of armor. That's not an inappropriate amount of AC for a creature literally made of armor. This monster turned boss could be a really cool climax for a alchemist workshop that's gone awry. But we need to think about what our level 1 players are capable of. Players at level 1 are going to have +2 proficiency. If they roll decently, they have a stat 16, a +3. And in your session 0, you inform that player that hitting is fun, so they should put that particular stat into their primary stat. Meaning that our players, in order to match that AC, or roll above it to hit, are going to have to roll a 13 or above. So what we've got here, with some simple math, is that our players have a 35% chance to hit this creature with their basic weapon attacks. Particularly when it comes to level 1s, we're dealing with a rather strict time limit on combat. Our animated armor here has multi-attack, making 2 slams, +4 to hit, and dealing about 5 damage on average. If we're fighting a ragtag group of adventurers with a ranger, sorcerer, monk, and rogue, our average AC is going to be about 14, which means our animated armor has a 50% chance to deliver its attacks. With 2 attacks per turn, 5 damage for the full round. Our player characters here, on average, have about 10 hit points. With 2 melee attacks from multi-attack on the animated armor, our time limit is 1 character per 2 full rounds. The animated armor is going to down a player every 2 rounds. On the other side of our equation, our player characters are putting out about 7 damage a round on average, with weapon damage, and 5 for things like Firebolt. So what we have is about 6 rounds of combat before our players down the animated armor with its 33 hit points. And 6 is a really good number. 10 is too long, 4 is too short, 6 is about the sweet spot where players feel like they engaged in an epic battle and made some good decisions during it. However, our equation here has failed to factor in that the armor is downing a party member every 2 attacks. With our 50% chance to hit, our animated armor is reducing the damage output of our players, because their damage is removed because they're unconscious. So the damage output of the party slowly decreases as the party members fall, and the animated armor wins the fight around 7 rounds, where our party needs a full 8 rounds to finish it off. Now, I'm not telling you to go through this percent math every time you pick a monster, that's absurd. But you can see why I'm alerted by an armor class of 18 and a multi-attack 2 melees that deal 5 damage with a +4 to hit. On top of this, we have immunities to poison and psychic. Wouldn't be very fun for our level 1 characters to just have their attack nullified. That would increase the amount of full rounds it would take for our party to down the animated armor. But you might look at the basic stats and say, well, it has a -5 to intelligence, a -4 to wisdom, a -5 to charisma. Our spellcasters in this group should have a good time decreasing the effectiveness of their enemy. But it has condition immunities of blind, charm, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poison. If our spellcasters are going for crowd control effects, we lower their damage even further, and this fight has become even more in favor of the animated armor. And there are so many factors and what-ifs we could add to this equation we've made. What if the party has a proper tank with 18 AC? What if the party has a barbarian who is resistant to bludgeoning damage while raging? What if we made our animated armor mindless, and it just wailed on the first character it sees until that character is down, and then it moves on? What if our animated armor, being from an alchemist's lab, hates spellcasters, and directs its ire at them first, regardless of what the team does to prevent it? What about healing? Healing in the party is going to decrease the overall damage output of the party, meaning this is going to take more rounds to defeat. And healing in 5th edition means players come back immediately. There is no negative hit points they have to recover from, so those players often rejoin the fight. But they may have missed their turn depending on the turn order. And being that they fell prone, they may miss their opportunity to actually hit the animated armor. And what if our party is perfect? We have a heavy AC front line, we have a healer in the back, and we have competent damage dealers. And we've made the decision as DM to let our animated armor be mindless and engage that tank player for as long as it lasts. Well, then we might consider adding more monsters to this battle. Maybe a steel defender as part of the constructs here to harass the back line. Or maybe we'll just make up a custom monster, a Clockwork Weasel. Use a weasel, give it the condition immunities the same as our animated armor. But don't be fooled. Challenge rating 0 monsters are still worth XP and they still have a challenge associated with them. They're not nothing. Even our Clockwork Weasel, with 1 hit point, is going to absorb a full action and attack from our players, changing our equation on the armor and meaning he lasts longer, deals more damage, and is more dangerous. But all of that wonderful math aside, a high AC of 18 is not going to be fun for your players to fight. And with huge piles of immunities, it's not going to be fun for your spellcasters to miss their spells. Our challenge rating 1 animated armor is better served in a challenge rating 3 fight, where we have 3 animated armors at level 3. And same goes for some of our other monsters in the challenge rating 1 category, like Goblin Boss. Goblin Boss has the reaction Redirect Attack. Whenever a creature the goblin can see targets it with an attack, the goblin chooses another goblin within 5 feet of it. The 2 goblins swap place, and the chosen goblin becomes the target instead. That's so much fun, why would you want to miss out on that by having the Goblin Boss by himself? But if we add more goblins to this fight, it's no longer a challenge rating 1 fight. So a Goblin Boss at challenge rating 1 is not a good boss. Same goes for the Gnoll Pack Lord at challenge rating 2. So returning to our earlier example when finding a boss, a single monster that your players are going to fight, first thing I want you to do is look at the AC and see if it's going to be a good percent, a good chance to hit, if it'll be fun to wail on this monster. Next, I want you to check the damage output of the monster, and make sure that's not going to one-shot your party. If we look at the Minotaur, it has an AC of 14. That's pretty good. We'll have fun beating up a Minotaur. Its Great Axe attack deals 17 damage on average, 2d12 plus 4. That will seriously down most party members, and anybody sitting in that spellcaster 8 hit points area is instantly dead when players receive damage equal to their hit points in the negative. So in this case, 17 damage total, from 8 to 0, and 0 to -8, they die outright. A Minotaur is not a level 1 encounter. But then we can go look at a challenge rating 3 monster like Manticore, and its damage output is way more sane. In fact, we could use its multi-attack to target different players, and make that fight even easier. In previous editions, if you wanted to have a solo boss battle, 4v1, it was very easy to look upward to find that monster. But with level 1s in 5th edition, it is just way too dangerous. For the most part. So let's get to the boss monsters I really like. Ghoul. You have a nice graveyard adventure, you got some carrion rats and zombies with 1/4 challenge rating. Along the way there, they learn that zombies are immune to poison. But all of a sudden they fight something that they haven't seen yet before. A ghoul. Armor class 12. Excellent, we're gonna hit this monster. It deals a lot of damage on its bite, only a +2 to hit, but 9 on average. Its claws at +4 deal 7 damage. Kinda dangerous, and if you fail your DC 10 Constitution save, you are paralyzed for 1 minute. We can already see those factors lining up as to how we're going to be decreasing our party's damage output. But at 22 hit points, this fight will not last long. 65% of the player's attacks are going to hit, meaning this fight, without those paralyzations and party members going down to a lucky bite from the ghoul, is going to last about 2 full rounds of combat. With the paralyzations, with the ghoul charging appropriate targets, we're looking about 4 rounds of combat. If we give the ghoul a good position, a surprise attack on a vulnerable, low AC target, we're right in that sweet spot of danger of about 6 rounds of combat. The 5th edition ghoul is without a doubt my favorite trial boss for a party. I would even suggest just using it on the open road. If you're playing a campaign, throw a ghoul at them early and just see how it goes. Another great gem, and at challenge rating 2 no less for our level 1 party, highly usable in so many situations and so many different stories, the Cult Fanatic. Armor class 13, and a lot of cool spells to introduce your party to, like Hold Person, that can cause a paralyzation. If you want to up the difficulty, it could have pre-cast Spiritual Weapon as the fight begins. Now remember that Shield of Faith is also concentration, so you can't do Hold Person and Shield of Faith at the same time. And if you're using this as a level 1 boss, I'd definitely stick to some more multi-attacks with the 2 daggers, rather than casting Inflict Wounds, because it deals 3d10 necrotic damage on success. That's a little much. We can just ignore that spell. Otherwise, the Cult Fanatic is fantastic. Our level 1 mission, quest here, can have a ghoul, a Cult Fanatic at the end, by itself. But as we go on, a level 5 adventure could have a whole bunch of Cult Fanatics, a whole herd of ghouls for our party to deal with. There's nothing quite as rewarding in any game when a boss becomes a normal minion later on. You see exactly how you've powered up. That is extremely visceral, and your party will feel it, and they will feel damn cool doing it. Using this type of analysis, go through the monster manual or whatever books you have, and make little tabs of monsters that fit this criteria. Bugbear, AC too high, damage too high. That's not a level 1 boss. Giant Spider, AC's alright, hit points are alright, damage alright. Could be good for an optimized party. And I would definitely suggest here at the end, even though it's called Dungeons & Dragons, just skip the Wormlings. Wormlings are at max about 5 years old. You are beating up babies. Those are really meant to be part of a greater adventure in a dragon's lair. And when you think about the longevity of a dragon, it's just not very epic. It is so much more rewarding to hold out for that challenge rating 6 young white dragon. I would even say skip that one and go straight for the challenge rating 7 black dragon. Young dragons can be up to 100 years old. They can enact plans. They can want to take over a town to make it their roost. You could make it part of a 3-act structure leading to that dragon rolling into town to claim its prize. If you're in a rush to get there, give them a level per quest. Just skip the Wormlings. Next episode will be a mailbag. Send those questions about D&D 5th edition dungeon mastering or playing over to kylefergusson.com using the contact link. You can also there find a link to the Discord if you want to ask questions directly in the DM Gives Inspiration tab. Music was by Brian Griffith. I'll see you next week with that first mailbag episode of Season 5.